Ever since the days of Brood War and Warcraft 3, I've absolutely loved a good real-time strategy game. The only problem is that there are just a few that have the established market, and those that pop up just seem to fade into the ether. Nonetheless, that doesn't stop me keeping my finger on the pulse and seeing what pops up now and again. So that's why we're here today, and I want to talk about a game called Liquidation. Now, before I get going, and I don't want people to fall in the same trap that I did, I actually found out that they had a Kickstarter, but the sad thing is this is being cancelled and this project actually now isn't going ahead from my understanding. And I honestly believe it's a really sad thing because this game potentially had some really good concepts. Anyway, for those who are interested what the game was about, these are all the details. As previously mentioned, it is an action RTS and it is a mixture of the following. So it's got the playstyle of StarCraft 2 and Dawn of War 3 and also has the stylism of Warcraft 3. And these are all really good ingredients for an RTS. So the first one was the Twilight Crusade. They take a lot of inspiration from the Space Marines and they're a mixture between Space Marines and Space Paladins. And then you have the Nether Legion. These look like they were heavily inspired from Dreadlords in Warcraft 3. So you have the Scourge Alliance, and these kind of had a little bit of a fan favourite pick from my understanding because they were known as the Frog People. They were like an underwater frog-esque bright green race, and they looked like they were inspired from creatures from Nazartar and WoW. And the last one I want to talk about is called the Corruption, and they are a mixture between the Chaos Space Marines and the Zerg is the best way to describe it. And if you threw in a pinch of Cthulhu, I think you're about there. So I got to play on the demo for a little bit, and it's, as you expect, it is a demo and it's a little bit clunky, but it gives you a pretty good idea of what the game is all about. In the level you play the Twilight Crusade and you get a mayday call that something is invading and attacking you, and it's the Corruption. And you go along with your dudes and they're like, why are you so weak? And then you find out actually a bigger problem than you originally anticipated. Anyway, the game is made in Unity, and I gotta say, for a demo, they did a pretty good job. I'm not going to rip in too hard because it is a cancelled project at the end of the day. But if you're looking for a comparison of how these guys played, it's very similar to those of the Human in Warcraft 3. These are the units that I did get to play with. You had Crusaders, which were very similar to Footmen. You also had Riflemen, which again were very similar to Riflemen in Warcraft 3. And then you had the more elite kind of shooting Riflemen, which had a minigun known as the Royal Guard. Now, one of the things that I found quite interesting about the whole resourcing was its similarity to Dawn of War. So in this one, you had what's known as a juice tank. You put it by your resource patch, and then it would just absorb from any minerals that were nearby. And I'm quite a fan of the system because you used to have like your SUVs and probes and drones to get your minerals, and of course you had to balance them around and make sure that they weren't oversaturated. And while it was no real problem once you got used to the game, it was just one of those entry level steps that kind of you had to get over to get good at the game. From here, there's not really that much to talk about. There were buildings that allowed you to upgrade your armor and attacks, etc. They had this whole capture system as well. So if you captured a shrine, it gave you an ability from your deity like god. The first one allowed you to put armor. You got 2 shrines and you could heal. And the other 2 abilities I didn't actually get to play around with, but you get the idea of how it worked. They also had a really nice twist on the whole defensive structure. There wasn't any cannons per se, but that's not to say there weren't any later down the line, but what you had instead was a turret you put down, and anything in that proximity would get a buff and be stronger for it. So if you were on the defense, it gave you a little bit of an advantage. There are also hero classes in this game. The only one with an ability I got to play around was the kind of wizard, which allowed you to summon an elemental, which is very similar to the hero class in Warcraft 3 as well. Usually at this point I would have a bit of a poke for taking elements away from other RTSs, but honestly, no one has made a game as good as Warcraft 3 or Dawn of War. And if making a kind of like hybrid of the 3 is the only way we're going to get it, then I'm all for it. I would also like to say it really captured the whole micro elements that make RTS games really good, that give them that extra skill cap, that kind of skill ceiling that people can, put effort to and attain great things from. Because that was one of the great things about StarCraft 2, like the micro in it was really pretty to watch. If you ever saw any games from the GSL, then you just saw how good people could use their units to achieve various things. Anyway, a bit of a sad story because the project is no longer. The dev had to go away for personal reasons, so the Kickstarter came to an end, and it did. It looked like it was actually going to get the money it needed. It was trying to raise 20,000, and I think it got to about 9,000. So yeah, there we go. I mean, I'm always on the lookout for more RTSs. I absolutely love StarCraft 2 and would love to see something similar pop up, but if you know of any, let me know. I know Age of Empires 4 is just about to drop, so we're going to have a look at that. But until then, I'll be back with more news and reviews soon. Have a great week, everyone, and I'll talk to you later.